Hey guys, Andy N, spoken label, back in the house. Yes, I'm bloody cold. Got a jacket on, jumper, t-shirt, scarf, and whatever the hell this around my neck is. And somebody, a very kind friend of ours, got me as a Christmas present. It's freezing around here. So we're off to part of the world today that I suspect is a fair bit warmer. We're over to South Africa today. Yes, kudos to the wonderful Alter Heifers today. We've got a ride today that's bought out his, I want to say debut book. He's bought a book out with on Alter's Press recently. We've got the fantastic Mervin Mark Francis with us today. Now, I got talking to Mervin. Ooh, we met, didn't we, online last week? I had a great chat, so I've been looking forward to this one ever since. So, right, Mervin, obviously, to start us off with today, buddy, give us the introduction to yourself. Where did your creativity come from originally?
Okay, good day, guys. Good day, Andy. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm actually stoked to be here talking to somebody all the way in UK. Apologies, my mates. I see you are struggling there with the cold. Unfortunately, Durban is like we are cooking in here, so to say. So apologies for having the adverse weather there. So yes, Mervin M. Francis. Um, I started writing poetry at a very young age when I was back in school. One of the things that we used to do back then was we used to have a lot of creative activities, especially for Arbor Day. And during Arbor Day, we were given many tasks. And one of those tasks was like either you write a story or do a poem with regards to Arbor Day. And lo and behold, that actually got me triggered off in terms of writing poetry. And I felt the best way to express the feelings and emotions of the event or of the day was through poetry, because poetry actually, for me, was a lot of inner emotions. And when you tap into inner emotions, you get the raw bits that comes out from somebody, and it's not something that's just fabricated. It's something that speaks volumes from within the heart. So that basically was what triggered me into going that line of writing poetry.
Brilliant. Now, great stuff. Now, the couple of things, obviously, before we come on to your books that you've bought out to date, there's a couple of things I want to touch on also as well. Like, you told me a really good story the other day about how you met our mutual friend Alta as well. So I want people to know how you met Alta, wonderful Alta Hefner, first of all, didn't you, in her press?
Okay, so Elsa was actually a byproduct of some activity that I had planned. So I have been writing since 2000. I've completed two books already in poetry by then, before I had met Alta, and I was working on my third book of anthology in poetry. When I had I can say, it was like a mind thought about poetry, because for me, a lot of chatter was going around that poetry is a dead end. As much as you write poetry, but the market never ever went in a way where bookstores was actually looking for poetry. And so I decided to do something different. I said, let me just do a poetry fest where we get a lot of poets together, budding poets, also community wise, people that write poetry, just to like get around a bonfire, sit down there, and we just have this poetry session. And the thing about it was never ever done in Durban, where I live, and that's in South Africa. So KZN or South Africa, I haven't come across something of that nature. So I said, let's do this. And when we initially started it off, unfortunately, the date that I set was for October, and prior to that, we had some, I'll say, a loss in the family, as well as terrible weather that you are experiencing right now. KZN actually had it for the first time ever that we had actually snow so close outside of winter. And with that all being done, we actually postponed it to a later date. And when we postponed it for a later date, upon us sending out TikTok invites, as well as Instagram, Facebook. So word of word of mouth got to Elsa, and she actually requested to be part of this new activity that we're doing. So I managed to get five poets, five authors, and two publishing houses. Elsa was the one publishing house that picked up their hand and said, you know what, we like what you're doing, we want to join. And it so happened that Elsa gave me a call, and while we were speaking to one another, I could just pick up this bubbly nature in somebody that is so driven towards poetry. And when I started asking her questions about what she does, and she actually does haiku, uh, a form of Japanese poetry. And
Yes.
then she introduced me to her husband as well, Charles. Well, Charles also does poetry.
Yeah.
So from a publishing house by two people that actually controls uh, publishing works, actual poets, gave me that warm feeling. And from there is where we just started going on, and we met at the Poetry Fest. From there, we got more understanding of one another. She kind of like enjoyed what I was writing and my writing style, and she was like so interested in making sure that, you know what, this is the type of poetry that we want to get out there.
Really, I've got a lot of time for Ulster and Chuck. Chico is Charles Dew Chuck to
Uh,
me. I'm probably the few people that get away with calling him Chuck. So, but yeah,
is it?
I alter and Chuck anyway. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I'm delighted in fact you Dalton got in touch with me to refer me over to you. Now, obviously, in relation to yourself, to date you've done three full-length poetry books. The first two obviously were, I think they're self-published, but that's immaterial because they're still great. Now, have you got those books to hand, Mervyn? As we said before, there.
That's the
Book
one.
Book
So
number one.
this was my baby.
Yep.
This was my baby, my first book.
Yep.
It's called Book of Dreams. In
Yeah.
here we have 44 poems that was initially done. This came about where I was sharing poems with friends, and they asked me, "Why don't you do a book? Do you have a lot of poems that are there?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got over like 30 poems that I've written over a period of time." And then they said, "Yes, why don't you do a book?" So that's where this started. And when I met with the publishers, they actually told me, you know what, it's going to be a small book if you're looking at it, but minimum was like 30 for an anthology for poetry. So I said, "Well, can we not, if you want, I can beef it up a little." So within a week, I did another 15 poems and added it to this book. So Book of Dreams became the first book, which had a lot of whimsical poetry from back in the days, when you were youngsters, playing around, falling in love, having all these magical moments as you grow up from a teenager. So yeah, so that's basically is all the trials and tribulations that I went through, friends went through, as well as what I picked up as I went along.
Brilliant. Now, obviously, like I said before, you've done three books on dreams. Before we do a quick analysis
Correct.
of book one and then over to book two and three, what made you want to do a trilogy of books about dreams?
Okay, so when I initially started, it wasn't actually that thought frame.
Hmm.
I never actually thought about writing a book, in fact. For me, writing poetry, I prefer doing it for making greeting cards kind of thing.
Oh, yes, we
Where
should.
I was
We need to mention that. Hallmark. Yes, right.
Yeah, so one of the things I was fascinated with was the way how Hallmark always had their greeting cards with this beautiful picture and beautiful poems on them for different occasions. And I used to go originally and buy these cards, and to a state where I said to myself, why am I buying cards that is already written with poetry? I write poetry. So I started buying beautiful pictures with blank inside. And that's when I started writing out poems into greeting cards and sharing it with friends at that time.
Beautiful idea.
So, Hallmark, if anybody was going to be my dream come true, Hallmark would have been the way that I would have went. Unfortunately, life doesn't give you those clear directions, and you have to start making changes and adjustment as you go along.
Yeah, no, agreed, agreed on that one. So, but it's some beautiful poems in all three of your books. There is. Now, obviously, before we come on to the other two books, I said I made a couple of notes of some of the poems I want you to tell me about. Okay, particularly obviously from the Book of Dreams. Now, the first poem in that book was his poem actually called Poetry. So. I thought this was a great introduction to the book. So, what made you want to start off with poem called Poetry?
Okay, so the fascinating thing about that was when I what did all this, and remember, poetry was actually not a poem that was there initially. So remember, I told you in that week I did another 15.
Hmm.
So I said to myself, we all write poetry. We all do poetry for some reason or the other. But why do we do it? Do we understand what poetry is? What is your perception of poetry? So I said, let me just show you what is my thought when it comes to actually writing a poem about poetry.
Really? Yeah. No, it's you've got it spot on there. It shows it does. It really shows that piece, your perspective of poetry, and it also shows a lot about yourself as a person as well, which again what was a great start to the book. So a lot of the poems in this book are very, very lyrical, but they're beautifully wrote. And that's why you got like the second poem in the book is I Dream of You. And for me, that was the real start in the book, which is like flowing love there, which is beautiful. And what was the idea? What was the inspiration between I Dream of You as a poem?
Okay, so like I said, the one when I started writing, so most of the time I had a big A4 hardcover notebook, which I used to write down all my poems. That was my page where I should write, scratch, correct, edit. So at that time we didn't have computers, so it was more in line of writing, scratch and redo. So over the time, that book they had a lot of my dreams. So poetry of me and my emotions, what I want to aspire to in terms of life, love, uh, all those little things. And I Dream of You is about me being in love and what I want, the direction that I want to go. So in terms of everything that we do in life, it's about our dreams. It's about whether we challenge ourselves to it, whether we follow those dreams. And the one dream that we all have is to have somebody beside us on those journeys.
Agreed. Agreed with you completely on that. Wonderful stuff
You
indeed.
know, talking about this as well, Andy, I dream of you. I'm not sure whether I mentioned that I am doing some music videos as well.
Should we talk about this later? Because I've got that listed. Yes, you have
We
told me about
can,
that. Yes, we'll
but
talk about that. Is
I
that
have
one of the?
turned
Is that
this.
one of them? Oh, good choice.
This is one of the poems that I actually turned into music, which I can share with you if you so want.
Yeah, Brit, we'll come on to that shortly. Okay, I promise you. Yes, but great stuff indeed. So good, good stuff indeed. Now, I also loved through this book as well, was, and I don't want to go so good for all the poems. There's a lot to cover in this, but I like this the change in tone in one of the other pieces, naughty but nice, because they're the real. I love the cheekiness in that one, and I thought that was a real nice change in tone. That was. Is that something you
Yeah,
like embracing sometimes? Slightly more cheekier poems as well.
I think we take too much for granted in life. And I think most of the poems are either too deep. And like I said, I was a whimsical poet at that time. So for me, anything that can trigger off some encouragement, some spark of life, or even some laughter. And when I actually did it, I thought it was something that was fun to play with.
Yeah, you got that. You got that.
If you read it, and yeah, so it was like little bit of life and a little bit of enjoyment at the same time, but in a way that shows, you know, spontaneity brings out a different side of somebody.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think as well it does. I think as a writer, you've got to be. spontaneous in everything you do. And it's like you've got to like it, break forms, try other approaches out all the time. And yeah, and I thought that was a great choice, Little Poem was, because it came at a good time in the book and it showed you really good changing gears of writing on that one straight away. Now, I said there's 40 odd poems and I haven't got, we'll be here till midnight UK time discussing all 44 of them. I know there were two full-length books, but I want to ask you about one more poem from this book, and I like the concluding poem, particularly about a dream. Now, I'm interested in learning what made you want to choose to conclude this book with the poem.
Okay, so we started off with a dream. Life took us through a lot of our ups, downs, uh, innocence, nature, what we embraced in nature. And I said the best way to finish it is with a dream as well. So that you know your dream is, you will always be going back to your dream. And it so happened that it wasn't planned. Oh, let me just put it to you that way. The sequence of the poems was not planned.
Oh,
Yeah, I did not like go, this is number one, number two, number three, number four. No. It's amazing how it unfolds, and it gives you that complete perception of the fact that you've started on a level, took you through an entire journey of ups, downs, excitements, and then brought you back to that same plane.
yeah.
So yes, I believe there's a guy up there. He has his way of making things turn into uh, something that can be desired, something can be taken out. And a lot of my poetry resonates with people. And if you start a dream, you should finish off with that dream.
Yeah, no, agreed. Symmetry point, yeah, perfect. Agree with you on that one. So now, obviously, a bit later on, obviously, you brought out Dreams of Life, your second book, which have you got that to hand to show to people as well?
Yeah, so as you know, so we talked about, mentioned the trilogy. So that's Book of Dreams. So the best way to start the next dream is Dreams of Life.
Indeed. Now, the people wondering, obviously, this has got a how many poems are in your second book here, Mervin? Because
In fact, this
it's a
book,
thicker book, isn't it? So,
it's a thicker book. This has 90 poems. And this book was actually published within a year of this one being released.
that's some going. So, was Dreams of Life all brand new poems then, was it? Or was it a bit of some poem early
There's
ones
no
and
repeats. There's no repeats, Andy. All poems there are all original standalone poems. That's got its own standalone poems. So yes, so none of the books have repeats in terms of
yeah.
poems.
Did you write all that book within a year, did you then? Or was some of the poems a little bit older as well?
No,
Oh
these are
wow.
all new poems within the
Wow.
time that I had completed this. So
Yeah.
like I said, 15 poems were the last 15 that I had to do, yeah, plus another 90. So 105 poems were all brand new poems.
Some going that way. That is excellent. Really, really good going. Respect and kudos to you. I know I couldn't begin
Thanks,
to
bud.
dream of writing that pace. So, but yeah, no, great. Now, um, on this book itself, in contrast to the first book and the third book, you split this into sections as well. So I'm just curious to know why you made use in sections, and we'll go for the sections with people to know. So you did a couple of poems to start off with, Dreams of Brotherhood, didn't you? We'll start off with.
Yeah. So once again, the publisher sat with him and went through all the poems, and then they looked at the poems in terms of relationship to one another. And the very first poem that you find here is "My Bro." That was actually written for my late brother. So
Wow.
that's how I kicked it off. I kicked it off with a poem for my late brother, and the way I had actually remembered him, or how I remember him every day. So at home, I have an altar. I'm a Catholic.
Hmm.
So at home, I have an altar where I start my day every morning. So I've got those close relatives that have passed on. I have their pictures there, and I greet them every morning, say a prayer before I leave home. So they start my day and they're my guidance. So in terms of that, brotherhood for me is like having your close-knit friends that that gives you that strength and give you the will to chase another day. So there was the one where I actually dedicated to the guys at work, Toyota. So that was the second poem. So if you look at it, each poem has that type of a tie-in with brotherhood, hence the reason why they have it in terms
Yeah,
of the first.
no, makes sense that. Now, obviously, then like I liked what you did then was you went from brotherhood to lifelong friends, which is the second section itself, which is dreams of lifelong bonds, like special friends. You
Yes,
found a friend in your friends and stuff. Yeah, I think that was a
correct.
great choice, go from brotherhood to bond to lifelong bonds, basically. So, was that a conscious decision straight from the beginning of this book? Then was it to do it that order?
Nothing in any of my books is conscious decision, unfortunately, Andy.
Ah, you like me.
Um,
You term us in English and England as a wing and a prayer man, and I like that.
I'm serious. I'm serious. It's something they had seen. And when they sent it to me and I looked at it, and I had the same questions in my head as to why did they do it in such a manner. And then I said to myself, don't mess with something that has already been done.
Yeah, no, good, fair point. Some that it's natural
And
order,
and
yeah,
it, and if you see in it, it's actually kind of like blends itself, and it goes from brotherhood, friends, and so on. So each,
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It makes sense. You completely what you've done there with that, and I like then you went beyond that. You went into dreams of beauty behind that, and I love, for example, that section. You about beautiful stars and angels to me, which were beautiful poems again. And then what made you want to
yeah.
then, yeah, what made you want to touch on beauty then after that then?
Okay, so we have these relationships that comes through. So as we move further, you get into the beauty part of life. You get to see the beauty around you, the people that are around you, the inner beauty that they have, and the impact that it has in you as a person. So you get to embrace it, you get to enjoy it, and you should actually give some kind of recognition towards it as well, because it actually builds into this relationship kind of like vibe that gives you a growth into the next chapter.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. No, great stuff. Now, I said for those, and after that, you went deeper after that, didn't you? From beauty to heart, then soul as well, which are more, both those sections are much deeper. It's just beautiful. So, and then like, what made you want to go into dreams of the earth after that then?
Okay, so we tend to forget nature. A lot of us actually tend to forget nature, and nature actually helps us in terms of what we do, what we see, how we grow. We take nature for granted as well, most of the time. And we kind of like do stuff that we shouldn't be doing. We destroy stuff. We destroy nature. And for me, a lot of our lives revolve around nature. And we should give tribute to that and work together with what nature brings to us. So I enjoy nature. I love nature. I can sit outside and just watch rainfall. That's that's how much I love nature.
Yeah, agreed. The same with me that because where we live, and we live next to what about a 10-minute walk from a forest, and I absolutely love going to the forest near us. Not when it's raining or snowing.
No, no, no.
No, that's less fun. That's less fun if you get caught out in that. But yeah, no, I agree with you completely with it, mate. So, um, I did like the conclusion part of this book as well. It's like it's very reflective. I think it took it back to the brotherhood side of things. Was dreams of good times to conclude it. I love the Halloween poem in that as well. So that was like a lot like memories, and that was that the point behind the conclusion of that book, really, the memories of it in the last part.
Um,
Oh, well,
I'm still gonna tell you the same thing.
yeah.
For me, and I'm amazed that you actually picked it, Andy. And I'm serious because we didn't go that deep in terms of the way the poems were set out or the way they transcended from brotherhood to Halloween. Remember, Halloween in America is it's like huge. The celebrations and the way they go out for it. South Africa, yes, to a certain extent, it's kicking in a little bit more now as the generations are going. And we watch a lot of TV movies, and we see a lot of these Halloween parties and what happens out there. And the amazing thing is that when you see something like this happen in a place where it don't normally happen, it kind of like stirs up something in you. You reach when you was a child, this is something that you could have done. This is something you would have visioned yourself doing or going or with your parents and just it's like roaming free as a child with a parent there, but giving you the freedom to act out as a witch or a villain or something that just tickles your mind kind of thing. So yeah.
Right now, I agree. Very great stuff indeed, mate. So now, obviously, we're on to the current book now, which has just come up through Alter's wonderful press. Alter and Chuck's press, I should rephrase himself. Now, obviously, you told me also before we chatted earlier in the week, this was is a conclusion to the trilogy, isn't it? Of life, dreams, and challenges.
Uh, I'll say maybe
Oh, you didn't tell me that one
because
earlier in the week. Oh,
I
I
say
like that. I like
maybe.
that. This is where it's a great example, everybody wondering of pre to research and then that the writer is obviously teasing with me. No, it's
No,
fine, mate.
yeah. So a poetry point of view, I guess we don't normally follow a pattern in
Mm,
terms of we either go too too much of sadness or we either go too much of happiness. Uh, we don't actually blend ourselves with that we go through the motions of life. And okay, in terms of some poets, well, some of them go through a hard time in life, and the only thing they can think about is all the bad things that happen. So their poetry will just basically be about all the bad things and the sad things that's happening.
yeah,
So for me, I think I kind of like take the good and the bad, and I kind of like put them together and just start throwing the dice and see, okay, today I'll do something good, tomorrow I'll do something sad, something sweet. But in terms of the trilogy, I think this comes to the thing where you've got Book of Dreams. So we got Book of Dreams, then we got Dreams of Life, and then last and not least, we got Life, Dreams, and Challenges. So the title of the third book is called Life, Dreams, and Challenges.
tremendous indeed.
So it's a
Yeah,
combination of the two, the third challenge.
brilliant. Yeah. Now, again, you sent over to me the third book, which I've really enjoyed. Now, I want to talk about just three poems in this book in particular because I've really enjoyed the poem "The Show Must Go On." So, first of all, then, tell us about
Okay.
that because I know that's dedicated to is that a friend of yours, wasn't it? That one particular.
Actually, that poem I wrote when I had gone for a show. So we have kind of like Bollywood shows that happen throughout our areas. And I was actually introduced to the Big M production, which is the Pinky Moti show, and her son is Rajiv Moti. So he's an entertainer of note. So what he does is he's actually got a collaboration of local entertainers, of dancers. I mean, we're talking about Indians, coloreds, whites, and blacks, mixture of them. And he's put together this whole crew to show how cultural we can be in terms of cross function, cross this thing. Uh, what's this word? How we can actually fuse ourselves together and make one. We call ourselves a rainbow nation. So how we fuse ourselves together as a rainbow nation with all the different cultures, races, and that and ethnicity that we have in South Africa. And I went for one of his shows and I watched him perform live in front of me. This guy actually fell off the stage while performing, picked himself up, dusted himself, and he says, "You see, guys, I even fall for you. That's how much I love performing for you guys." And something just struck in me in terms of what he'd done, what he had said. And so much so that when I went back home, so my PRO is Zini M, and Zini M is actually part of the most influential woman in South Africa, and she's part of the Big M production. Hence the reason why I was actually invited. And during that time, I said to her, you know what, I'm going to write a poem about this guy. And she says, you know what, I'm going to give you, that's your challenge. Write a poem about him. So when I sat back, I didn't know him personally. And that was the first time I've actually saw him in person perform. And when that idea came into my head about writing the poem, I sat down, thought about it, and I just wrote the poem out. So much so that when I shared the poem with her, and she said to me, the poem actually fits him to the T from everything it does and everything he says and how he performs, what he does. And I said, but you know what? I didn't know him. And the title of it was The Show Must Go On. And it so happened that that is their title. One of the titles is Never Give Up. In the
Brilliant.
poem I wrote about Never Give Up. Then the show must go on. That was actually another catchphrase that they use. Again, I never knew it. And when he actually had a look at the poem, he was like, it knocked him off his socks. He was like, can I can I share this? Can I share this on all my platforms? So you are most welcome to do that. And the
Really.
response
Oh,
that I got
wow.
was like everybody said the same thing. This poem fits him to the T. And I'm like, kind of like, as I said to you earlier on, things happen. Words come to me. But I always feel that it's not just me that these words are coming from. I'm getting this words that flows into my brain, and that's it. Because I can knock a poem off in between 5 to 15 minutes.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
No, well done. Well done with that indeed. So, okay. On also in the books, I also love the one about, I hope when I write this, wrote this down right as well, the key that unlocked all doors.
The key
That's a
that
great image itself. So, what's the story behind that poem?
okay, so at that time my wife's nephew was getting married. Well, they were registered, and they were going to get married. And I was there for his reception when they got engaged. And he actually read one of my poems from Dreams of Life to his at the engagement to his girlfriend at that time from there. And I said, how fitting would it be to actually give him a poem for his wedding?
Beautiful
And
idea. Beautiful idea.
I looked at it. I looked at the way they loved. I looked at her. I look at, in terms of him and the way he goes about things and the way they've been going about their relationship in the time that we know them and all the collaborations that we had over the time. And it just kind of like came in a way that it even shook me a little when I completed it as well. That it actually fitted them like a glove.
No, I can believe that. I can believe that. There's a lot. That's why I pulled that poem back. There felt like an emotional connection with that piece. Yeah, that's beautiful. Really, really good
Yeah,
stuff,
it
that
was.
indeed. And the last one we'll talk about, I think this was the last poem in the book, because I don't have a tablet with me today, was A New Day. So what made you want to do that one then?
With everything that's going on in life, one of the things that we struggle a lot with recently, and especially with these epidemics, we are lucky to actually wake up the next day and have this. There are lots of people that do not get that opportunity to see another sunshine or to see a new day. And just to be blessed to have that, to keep going on. For me, I thought, why not share that? Why not um, give people the understanding that you should be embracing a new day. You should be thankful for that new day. We've got people that are actually committing suicide. Like, I don't understand that. Yes, we all have trials, we all have tribulations, we all fight the thing. But imagine those people that were fighting for a new day and they don't get it, yet you have the opportunity and you stifle that. So it was kind of a way of sharing people, you know what? Think about it, embrace it, and enjoy the fact that you get to see that new day.
Really instead. No, agreed. Agreed. There's a lot of stress of life nowadays. I think don't know what it's like South Africa, but certainly in England, that life's got faster. Not always for the best either. And you need to take
It's
that
all
step
over.
backwards. And I think that this pump's a great example of that. Where you're looking back and you think to yourself what you just said then, you've got to embrace it. Enjoy the life indeed.
Exactly.
Now, before we go on to other projects, I just want to ask you very generally here. Obviously, now you've done three poetry books. Can you see a journey from book one to book three so far with these, like as a progression of your writing?
Well, when I first started, I was doing a whimsical poetry. Basically, that's basically how it was captured. A play on words, a play on life, more enjoyment, embracing whatever life threw at you at that time, but more in a way of singing, dancing, and laughing your way through it. And somebody asked me after they had read my book, the Book of Dreams. So they say, do you only write poems that are joyful, happy? I said, oh, you know what? Now that you say you bring that up to me, it's nice to know that somebody wants to see another side of it. So how to do that? And I said, let me just do this. Let me work myself into a way where I could actually write a little more emotional stuff, sadness, a little bit twist of death. See how we can embrace those bitterness and bitter parts of our lives. We shouldn't hide it by just being jovial all the time. It's
Yeah,
a reality.
agreed.
So hence the reason why I actually transcended from there and started writing positive poetry. How to help people, how to support people, how to give people the drive to say, you know what, yes, we can do this as well. So that is when I moved from whimsical poetry to positive poetry.
Well
And then
said.
when you go to book three, I said to myself, during the time we've had a lot of challenges. And like I said to you, I have a PRO, which is in EM, and she gives me a lot of challenges as well. And whenever there's a fundraising, so I started getting involved in fundraising activities. Then we started doing these literacy outreach programs. And I said, these are challenges that a lot of people are facing. So let's add a little bit of whimsical, a little bit of positive poetry, and also a little bit of challenges so that we can try to change the norm. Try to make a new beginning. Changes is something that we all are afraid of, but changes are not always bad. Changes are also good, but it's how we address changes and what we do to make changes better. So hence the reason why we went from those three directions.
Brilliant. No, no, great stuff, mate. I can't blame you at all with that. So well done. Okay, on to other projects now. You sent over to me earlier on today, didn't you? Well, yes, yeah, during the week anyway. Several pieces of work you've done with an actual guest of ours from the last year. Was it Gavin? I forgot. I've not really bloody surname now. Sorry, Gavin. Gavin.
Gavin
Yeah.
Prinsloo.
Please, that was it. Sorry, Gavin. I forgot. I wrote Gavin down in my notes. Hopeless. Apologies, Gavin. I am really hopeless sometimes. Now, you've been doing some pieces with Gavin where he's been actually
Yes.
converting some of your poems into song. Now, first of all, then, how did you meet Gavin then?
Again, Alta.
I was wondering if
Alta is,
I was wondering if Alter was a hand in this one. Yeah, 'cause Gavin's wonderful. A lot of time for Gavin. So,
the amazing thing about meeting Alta is that my last 6 months, she's flipped it upside down, in fact. Um, so here in South Africa, poetry is not big. It's not a big seller. So we struggle to get poetry into bookstores, such to extent where I had actually engaged in a marketing guru to try and get my books into bookstores. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. Nothing came to fruition in that department up until I met Alta at the poetry fest. And like I said to you, you see, these are the things that when you manifest them, they come to light in a way. And when I met Alta, I had a different type of a reaction and a different type of drive coming out. Such to an extent where the third book right now, and I'm still trying to process it, is that they are sitting in international waters. I couldn't get a bookstore in South Africa, but here I'm sitting in international waters. I've got two bookstores in America. I've got two bookstores in UK. I've got a bookstore in Australia. I've got a bookstore in Germany. I've got a bookstore in Sweden, France, as well as India. So Alta has actually like changed a lot of things. And then I think you did mention this earlier on when we were talking, and you said that my poetry is kind of like rhythm in rhymes. Uh,
yeah,
so
very lyrical, your piece on, and they read really well
yeah.
because of that. Yeah, agreed.
And then I said, you talk about that actually in Book of Dreams. There's a poem called "A Wedding March," and the fascinating thing about the Wedding March, I sang this for my wedding.
Oh, wow.
I
I didn't know that one.
stood with,
Wow.
yes, I told you there were some surprises. So I actually stood with a mic as the wife, as my future wife was walking down the aisle at that time with a mic in my hand, no instruments, just pure a cappella, and I sang that very song as she walked down the aisle.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where it all started. Thanks, man. So I like music. I love music actually. I can sing and listen to music day in, day out. So when I did that poem at that time, I always wanted to turn it into a music, a song. And it so happened that Elsa mentioned Gavin to me, that Gavin does these type of transitions where he takes poems and turn them into songs. So I gave him the poem and I said to him, "Can you do this for me?" And he says, "No problem." And I think it was within 2 to 3 days, he had returned with a song for me. And I was like amazed at the way he does his work, such to an extent that I said to him, "You know what? Have a look at a few of my poems and tell me what you think if we can turn it into music." And he told me the very same thing that you told me. So we are currently doing a compilation of 8 poems, putting together an album, and I'm hoping that that's one of my projects that I'm currently working with at the moment with Gavin Prinsloo.
Brilliant
He's
stuff.
the
No,
soul whisperer, by the way.
brilliant. No, I'm looking forward to hearing more of it because I've played about, you said, what, four to me before? They were beautiful. Absolutely really enjoyed all four of them, mate, with that one straight away. So, okay, now, I know on top of that, there's other projects on the go. You've hinted to me there could be more poetry, which I didn't know about. But the one you did tell me about was you're working on a novel at the moment, aren't you, as well?
Absolutely. So I like to try new things. Life is all about trying new things, challenging ourselves to extent where what can we do next? And in fact, this novel idea came up when I was already writing my third book, Life Dreams and Challenges, such to an extent that it became a tussle up where I was writing poetry, stop, then I'll spend time on the novel, stop, go back to the poetry, and it kind of like seesawed for a while. And then I actually put the novel on a back burner and to complete the poetry so that I can get one out and then focus totally on the other. So the novel, I had actually had done around 10 chapters at that time. So yeah, so at the moment, I am currently working on the on the novel, which I'm hoping to get out this year.
Fingers crossed to that, definitely so. Now, obviously, with you doing the novel on top as well, then, how have you found doing the novel when, say, you've just been doing poetry before? Have you found it a real challenge to move from one written form to another?
Yes, it is. Like I said, in terms of the poetry, I can turn out a poem in about 10, 15 minutes. So if I write about 4 or 5 poems, that could be an hour. But if I sit with a novel, it's like you gotta sit down and you gotta unpack each story. So the chapter itself's gotta blend into one another. So you gotta be very clear in terms of what you write. And one of the problems I have is that I have this tendency of writing points that matter in terms of I never used to blow it out and give it a lot of meat. I was just like raw bone because I did history in school, and in history, I used to just go for facts, 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 facts. Now, when I did the first 10 chapters, I realized that, you know what, I've got a lot of these facts, but there's no fat, there's no meat. So hence I had to go back in it. So it did drag out a little. So yes, in terms of writing poetry, in terms of the novel, it's a big change. But I'm liking what's happening and I'm liking the way it's unfolding. Uh, but I also give myself breathing time between the writing because um, it does tend to give me a little bit of a brain headache.
Oh, join the club, join the club. You know, I've just done my second novel, and yeah, yeah, I like word brain headache. It's given me that as well. So, so good luck with all of them, Mervin, and please keep in touch. Now, we're going to conclude part one now, so I'm going to give you time to read a few poems out for us in the second half. But before we do,
No problem.
where can people get hold of your books?
Well, currently, I'm on Barnes and Noble. I'm on Amazon. There's, like I said to you, there's bookstores in UK. But if you go to Google and Google Mervin M Francis, you'll get all my handles from my Facebook to my Instagram to my TikTok, as well as the bookstores that carry these books. So Mervyn M. Francis, Google it, and thanks to Alta, I can actually say that so easily. Google Mervyn M. Francis, and you will have all the answers there for you, because she was the one that actually did my Google setup. So yeah, again,
Brilliant.
what an amazing person.
Indeed. Fantastic lady. Yeah, I agree with you. Good luck for the future with us, Mervyn. Definitely. So keep in touch, mate. Now, we're going to take a quick break now, everybody, because Mervyn's going to sort of do a few pointers in the second half. So thank you again, mate. It's been
And
a great first half, okay? We shall be back
thank you,
in
Mabel.
two shakes of the dice.